Hey and welcome, Miss Care Speaks. Before we get started, I ask that you watch the videos till the end, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. We're back again for another episode of Love is Blind, Season 3, Episode 4. So we open up with Matt and Colleen. She says, last night was fun. And these two, they're all giggly. She says they chose good. So looks like Matt and Colleen had a good night and morning, unlike Zanab and Cole. As did Nancy and Bartice. Apparently, Nancy snores, but don't we all? We have a little morning kiss, and Bartice in his confessional says they had a good night, and she'd agree. They consummated that thing several times, and Mr. Bartice is quite proud of himself. Sex was great. He said, she said it was excellent. They discussed the previous night and how comfortable they were with each other. Then we're with Brennan and Alexa. They too had a good night. He snores too. Told ya. But she grew up with a sound machine, so it was comforting to her. So as they talk, there's a knock at the door and it's their breakfast. But these two, they're really vibing. Raven and SK are working out. They are outside doing Pilates, and she says she wants him to learn so they can have a healthy routine as a couple. Pilates Raven is different than fiance Raven, or so she says, and Pilates Raven is kicking his butt. Back in the room, they discussed the night before. They stayed up all night talking, but no nookie for them. He was worried because she said that she was a wild sleeper, but it was all good. She likes staying up all night and talking, and she hopes that every night can be like that. Child, they had us watching their bathroom routine, and I don't know why, but they say it's starting to feel like real life. Meanwhile, Zadab and Cole are fighting over the word good versus great. Pure semantics. He said last night was good, so good, when she said it was great. And So then they're playing cornhole, ping pong, chess. Zanab has a clue not what she's doing, and she says he's not a good teacher. But later when they talk, she tells him that she let him win. Okay, girl. They talk about what their future might be like, and Cole wants them to be able to be honest. I think he said that she seems a little less comfortable outside the pods. He feels like she just needs time, but he's a little worried that she'll fall out of love with him. Colleen and Matt are on the beach enjoying the cold water. They sit for some drinks and some chit-chats, and she claims to be a foodie, but yet she doesn't know her sushi. Child, I guess. She says they probably would have never met because he isn't on the dating app that she's on. And then they have a little scenario and they talk about if they met each other at a bar and what that would be like, and then they discuss getting married in 30 days. Nancy and Bartice are eating and laughing and kissing, and they discuss how they both won because they chose each other. He asks why she doesn't want to tell her friends his age. She says if they ask, then she'll tell them, but she just doesn't want to lead with that because she doesn't want the judgment. It's not a big deal as far as her family. Her dad is 16 years older than her stepmom, and her mom is about 10 years older than her new husband. Part of me is like, they're only 6 years apart, and I don't know why she cares, but I get it because he's in his 20s, and that is a little bit young for marriage. Bartice says he can see himself spending the rest of his life with her. Raven and SK, they enjoy a sound bath together, and he falls asleep and starts snoring. This would so be me, hopefully minus the snoring. He asks how it was, and she brings up his snore, and sis basically says she couldn't enjoy it for listening to him snore, and she brings up how he likes to nap a lot. If I can get me a good nap in, okay, I ain't mad at him. They eat, and she says that there's still awkward vibes between them because they're both so calm. She's looking for some razzle dazzle, and they talk about working towards becoming more comfortable with each other. Brennan tells Alexa how excited he is to introduce her to his family. They just talk and laugh, and they enjoy each other's company. She says that her family is really close. She says they talk tough love to each other, and Brennan's like, oh no, we don't curse around the childrens and the babies. She instead She's interested to see their two different worlds come together. So it's time for the Love is Blind mixer where they get to see who they didn't pick. And you know it's going to get a little bit spicy because it always does. The guys and the gals, they're all happy to see each other. You know, the girls are kind of with the girls and the guys are kind of with the guys. And they're having a good time. Cole says he thinks that Colleen looks good. I bet you do. Bartice thinks Raven looks damn good, incredible. She has on a tight dress. She's got a great smile, etc., etc. She's a baddie, 100% a smoke show. Ciao. Nick and Vanessa come out to congratulate them. They tell them they get to meet the people that they didn't choose. And then they introduce the couples. It has to be weird pairing a face to a voice, Nick says. You have the chance to develop your emotional connection into a physical one. They will see age, race, background, people you didn't choose, and Vanessa adds, will any of those things change how they feel about each other? Oftentimes, it does. They're 4 weeks away from their wedding. Will you say I do or walk away forever? Is love truly blind? They hope it is, and they give a cheers. Shenanigans time, so they're all chitting and chatting, and Cole says Colleen is the type of girl that he would normally goes for, but he's an engaged man. Xanab and Colleen, they discuss doing the do. How many times? One is like, the other one's like, and I was like, really, ladies, that's what we're going to do? We just, okay. So then they like doing a little dance about it, child. But then the fellas are over there and they're discussing sex too. They're also excited. Bartice says she didn't need 3 rounds. She couldn't handle 3 rounds. Meanwhile, Nancy's over in the back just... Nancy is me. Nancy is munching on snacks. She ain't really with much of the conversation throughout this with the girls and the guys. I'm assuming she had, some drink because most of them did, but Nancy was having her snacks and I wasn't mad at her. Matt talks to Brennan about dating Alexa in the pods. He says that they're buds. Colleen says it didn't work out. It's awkward as hell. Yikes. But they said that they'll double date and that their kids will play together. So Cole tells Bartice and SK that there's a disconnect from him. She is not what he had pictured her to be. It's different. He has to reconnect. He's figuring things out. The guys, they understand. Bartice says that he didn't have a picture in his head, so it's not as big of a deal to him. Cole says he's still in love. It's just different. Bartice agrees, but Cole says he could craft and create the girl that he wanted in the pod. He talks about adapting. He calls Xanab passive aggressive. That can't be good, SK says. And then they start having a conversation about towels. Cole, just pick up the dang on towels. Stop being a mess. Stop being a garbage pail kid. That's all. It's not that serious. Xanab tells Colleen that she hasn't connected the person in the pods with the person she's looking at. Colleen says, it's been weird. Xanab says, last night was wonderful, but from last night to the silent treatment with her, but he's lovely. And she admits that it's easy for her to get in her head. I can relate. Cole asks Bartice if he's more in love in person. Bartice answers, oh, yes. Cole asks, are you getting married in 4 weeks? And Bartice says right now, yes. They've had no problems or anything that's come up, that they've talked through it. It's clear to me that Cole is unsure, even though he keeps claiming that he's physically attracted to her. There was something about sex, and SK says no sex, but he can relate. Bartice was surprised and asked what the first night was like. SK says they were talking and they were catching up, but when they first got there and they sat down, they were both kind of, on opposite ends of the opposite sides of the couch. Bartice has a lot to say about this in his confessional, talking about how Nancy is all up under him and it doesn't make sense. And if we're him and Raven, Raven would be closer. He's so full of himself. He says she only went for SK because he didn't pick her. See what I mean? I had in my notes bars. He's starting to sound a little full of himself and I don't like it. Alexa admits that she's also done a do. Raven says she didn't, but we knew this. Colleen asks, has it been awkward? Raven says no. Alexa in her confessional said that she wanted to know what she was getting for the rest of her life. Matt says to the guys that his biggest fear is that he's given himself to this person and that she's playing him. You remember his situation. Bartice and SK assure him that that's not the case. He says it's too good. Cole says the biggest test will come when they have their first conflict. Cole admits that if it's not sincere, that Matt will crumble. They tell him that his fear is valid. So then everybody else, they're eating and they're drinking and they're talking. Raven in her confessional says that she and Bartise had a connection in the pods and they're both exercise people. The hype of the big muscles, it was real. Bartise in his confessional says he closed the door with Raven and he didn't give her the attention that she's used to. They're both attention getters. He's excited to pick her brain and connect with her in real life. He later says he regrets cutting things off too quickly with Raven. There's definitely feelings there. He doesn't know how to handle being around two girls that he has feelings for. So, later that night, Bartise and Nancy, they're back in the room and they talk about the night and they start to talk about the couples. Bartise is convinced that they will make it to the end. He says it was crazy seeing everyone and putting the faces to the names. Nancy asks if there's any couples that he thinks aren't going to make it. And baby, why she asked him that? Bartise says Raven and SK. He says he talked to SK and then he tells her that he revealed to the group that they had sex. He tells her that SK and Raven were on opposite sides of the couch. How is that not weird? Nancy says that she's surprised that SK made it to her top 4. And when she saw him, she's like, I'm good. She good where she's at. Bartise is like, well, that's the opposite of what I experienced. Say what now? He says he loved seeing Raven, and she's the typical girl he would go for in the real world. She came down in her tight clothes, and I'm like, okay, she's an effing smoke show. Nancy's face, y'all. The audacity of this man. When I tell you, he says they both draw attention. They connected in the pods because they're so similar. He cried because of the two of them. He says he was feeling Nancy more though, so he trusted his gut. BS. Raven hurt your feelings. Are you cool with me being that honest with you? Nancy's like, Nancy in her confessional is like, what the F? You want a tall, blonde fitness girls? Then don't come on one of these shows. And he looked like he was struggling not to talk about it anymore. And that is where the episode ends. Was this the beginning of the end? That scene took me out. Who says that to their fiance? Poor Nancy, she had got her stomach full. She probably had a little liquor. She looked like she wanted to snuggle, boo up, and do what they do. And here he comes with the BS. And I could go on and on. But you go ahead and drop your comment down in the comments section. You can talk about episodes 1, 2, 3, or 4. Please check out some of my other content and meet me back here for episode 5. Peace.